Students, good morning. We are going to deal with startup management. And the second chapter, factors affecting entrepreneurial growth. Various researchers over the world have identified the factors that contribute to the development of entrepreneurship. Economics agree that the lack of entrepreneurship is not caused by economic conditions alone, as was their earlier feeling. It is also due to the whole set of socio-cultural and institutional environment prevailing in less developed countries like India. Now let us understand clearly. These influencing factors can be divided into three. One, economic factors. Two, social factors. And the third, psychological factors. Let us see these factors in detail. Economic factors. Economic environment exercises the most direct and immediate influence on entrepreneurship. The economic factors that affect the growth of entrepreneurship are capital, labor, raw materials, marketing, and infrastructure. Capital is one of the most important prerequisites to establish an enterprise. Availability of capital facilitates for the entrepreneur to bring together the land of one machine, of another, and raw materials of yet another, the combined to produce the goods. Capital is therefore regarded as a lubricant to the process of production. Experience suggests that with increase in capital investment, capital output ratio also extends to increase. Lot of countries in the Western are very much exemplify how the lack of capital for industrial pursuits impede the process of entrepreneurship and adequate supply of capital promoted it. The quality rather quantity of labor is another factor which influences the emergence of entrepreneurship. Most less developed countries are labor rich nations owing to a dense and even increasing population. Potential advantages of low cost labor are regulated by the deleterious effects of labor. The considerations of economic and emotional security inhibit labor mobility. Entrepreneurs therefore often find difficult to secure sufficient labor. They are forced to make elaborate and cost arrangements to recruit the necessary labor. The problem of low-cost immobile labor can be circumvented by plunging ahead with the capital investment technologies. Thus, it appears that labor problems can be solved more easily than capital can be created. Raw materials. The basic establishment of any industry lies in the activity of its raw materials, and thus it influences the emergence of entrepreneurship. In the absence of raw materials, neither any enterprise can be established nor can an entrepreneur be emerged. In some cases, technological innovations can compensate of raw materials inadequacies. Example like Japan witnesses the lack of raw material clearly does not prevent entrepreneurship from emerging out of influence the direction of entrepreneurship. So the more favorable these conditions are, more likely the raw materials to have its influence of entrepreneurial emergence. Supply of raw materials is not influenced by them, but becomes influential depending upon the opportunity and conditions. Market. Market constitutes the major determinant of probable rewards from entrepreneurial function. Frankly speaking, if the proof of pudding lies in eating, the proof of all production lies in consumption. That is marketing. The size and composition of marketing both influence entrepreneurship in their own ways. Practically, monopoly is a particular product in a market becomes more influential for entrepreneurship. than a competitive market. However, the disadvantage of a competitive market can be cancelled to some extent by improving the transportation system, facilitating the movement of raw materials and finished goods. Thus, it appears that whether or not market is expanding, the rate at which it is expanding, the most significant characteristic of market for entrepreneurs emergence. Lot of scientists also have a greater improvements in transportation, showing the ways of marketing their products for the entrepreneurships. Fifth one is infrastructure. Expansion of entrepreneurship presupposes properly developed communication and transportation facilities. It not only helps to enlarge the market but expand the horizons of business too. Take for example, the establishment of post and telegraph system and construction of roads and highways in India helped considerable entrepreneurial activities way past from 19th century. Apart from the above factors, institutions like trade, business associations, business schools, libraries, etc. can make valuable contributions towards promoting sustaining entrepreneurship in our economy. The importance of business and industry associations has increased tremendously. In the fast changing world of business, entrepreneurs have to move collectively in order to be more effective and more efficient. So it is a part of the government to take proper decisions in providing the infrastructure for the expansion for the input of entrepreneurship. The second factor is social factors. Social factors can go a long way in encouraging entrepreneurship. In fact, it was highly helpful society that made industrial revolution a glorious success in the world. Now let us see the main components of social environments. 1. Caste factor. 2. Family background. 3. Education. 4. Attitude of society. 5. Cultural value. The first social factor is caste factor. There are certain cultural practices and values in every society which influence the actions of individuals. These practices and values have evolved over hundreds of years. For example, the caste system among Hindus in India, it has been divided into 4 divisions based upon the population. The Brahman, which we call as priest, Kshatriya, the warrior, Vaishyas, who do the trade, Shudra, who are artisans. It also has defined limit to the social mobility of individuals. Now, by social mobility, we mean the freedom to move from one caste to another. Thus, commercial activities were monopoly of Vaishyas, Kshatriyas are the warriors, etc. Now, when we speak about India, extensive commercial interactions with many other foreign countries, which has a dominance under their ethnical groups, which is a global phenomenon. The Protestant ethics in the West, the samurai in Japan, the trading classes of US are the family business concerns. For example, France have distinguished themselves as entrepreneurs. The second one is family background. This factor includes size of the family, type of family, and economic status of the family. It has been revealed that Zamindar family helped to gain access to political power and exhibit higher level of entrepreneurship. Background of a family in manufacturing provided a source of industrial entrepreneurship. Occupational and social status of family influenced mobility. There are certain circumstances where every few people would have to be venturesome. For example, in a society where the joint family system is in vogue, those members of joint family who gain wealth by their hard work deny the opportunity to enjoy the fruits of their labor because they have to share their wealth in other members of the family. Education enables one to understand the outside world and equips him with the basic knowledge and skills to deal with the day-to-day problems. So, system of education has significant role to play in inculcating entrepreneurial values. It promoted the idea of business not in respectable occupation. Now, when the Britishers came to our country, they introduced education system just to produce clerks and accountants for the East India Company. The base of such a system, as you can well see, in very anti-entrepreneurial. The unfortunate result of it is that young men and women in our country have developed a taste only for service. Their talents and capabilities have not been made such use. Rather, it has been wasted in performing routine conventional jobs. Hence, education methods have not changed much even today. The emphasis is still on preparing students for standard jobs, rather making them capable enough to stand on their feet. Society towards entrepreneurship is a related aspect. Such as societies encourage innovations and novelties and thus approve entrepreneurs' actions and rewards like profits. Certain others do not tolerate changes, and in such circumstances, entrepreneurship cannot take root and grow. Similarly, some societies have inherent dislike for any money making activity. For example, cultivating. The last one is cultural value. Entrepreneurial growth requires proper motives like profit making, acquisition of prestige, and attainment of social status. Ambitious and talented men would take risks and innovate if their motives are strong. The strength of those motives depends upon cultural and society. If the culture is economically or monetarily oriented, entrepreneurship would be applauded and praised. Wealth accumulation is a way of life would be appreciated. In less developed countries like India, people are not economically motivated. Monetary intensives have relatively less attraction. People have ample opportunities of attracting social distinction by non-economic pursuits. Men with organizational abilities are therefore not dragged into business. They use their talents for non-economic ends. The absence of proper economic motives is a general characteristic of agrarian societies in which people do not attach great value to business talents, industries, and leaderships, etc. The last factor is psychological factor. Many entrepreneurial theorists have propounded theories of entrepreneurship that concentrate specially upon psychological factors. These psychological factors are divided into three. 1. Need achievement. 2. Withdrawal of status respect. Third one is the motives. The first one is need achievement. According to McLennan, need achievement is a social motive to excel that tends to characterize successful entrepreneurs, especially when reinforced by cultural factors. He found that certain kinds of people, especially those who become entrepreneurs, had this characteristic. McLennan attributed this to sociological factors. The theory states that people with high need achievement are distinctive in several ways. They like to take risks, and these risks stimulate them to greater effort. The theory identifies the factors that produce such people. Then he concludes that need achievement is conditioned by more social and cultural reinforcements rather than by parental influence and such related factors. Withdrawal of status respect. There are several researchers who have tried to understand the psychological roots of entrepreneurship. And one such individual is Everett Hagen, who stresses the psychological consequence of social change. He says that at some point many social groups experience a radical loss of status. He attributed that the withdrawal of status respect of a group genesis of entrepreneurship. Now let us take an example. Japan has been free from colonial disruption, and secondly, the repeated long continued withdrawal of expected status from important groups called samurais in its society drove them to reactionism, which caused them to emerge alienated from the traditional values, which increased creativity. This very fact led them to technological progress to entrepreneur roles. He postulates four types of events that can produce the status of withdrawal. The group may be displaced by force. Second, it may have its value symbols disintegrated. It may drift into situation of status inconsistency. And the last, it may not be accepted the expected status on migration in new society. He further postulates that withdrawal of status respect would give rise to four possible reactions and create four different personality types: retreatist, ritualist, reformist, innovator. Let us understand. So the last psychological factor is motives. Other psychological theories of entrepreneurship stress the motives or goals of the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs seek power, prestige, security, and service to society, which points particularly to a non-monetary aspects such as independence, personal self-esteem, power, and regard of the society. On the same subjects, the motives are based on three kinds of entrepreneurs. The first one, managing entrepreneurs, whose chief motive is security. Second is innovating entrepreneurs, who are interested only in excitement. And the last is controlling entrepreneurs, who above all other motives want power and authority.